Hello everyone and welcome to a quick study of Canadian English. My name is Brooke Buckaway and this is my presentation. First we're going to discuss what is Canadian English, followed by who has the greater amount of influence on Canadian English and whether it's British or American English. Next we're going to discuss French and how French has impacted the English language in Canada, and we're going to discuss which language is currently the minority language. Next, we're going to discuss spelling, vocabulary, and pronunciation differences, followed by the Canadian vowel shift that is happening all over Canada. We're going to watch a quick video interview with a Canadian English speaker and an American. And lastly, we're going to discuss how technology is creating a divide for millennial Canadians. What is Canadian English? Canadian English, as the name implies, is the form of English that is spoken by inhabitants of Canada. As part of the British colonies in North America, English has been spoken in Canada since the 17th century. After the American Revolution, borders were created to separate Britain's other colonies from America. The land, which is now Canada, was thus separated from the United States, and the seed was planted for the creation of a Canadian national language. According to the Cambridge Encyclopedia of English Language, 63% of Canadians speak English as their first language, and an additional 20% speak English as a second language. With its strong British roots, it's no wonder that English is the primary language spoken in Canada. The big question is what form of English has the greater amount of influence, American or British English? Linguists Stefan Dollinger and Sandra Clark claim Canadian English has been called one of the best studied varieties of English considering the relative size of its population of speakers. Canadian English is often described as a hybrid between American and British English, and it is through this hybridity that the essence of Canadian English is formed. Although Canadian English is often associated with British English, American dictionaries have, for the most part, dominated references over the last 35 years as opposed to British dictionaries. Since the early 1990s, Canadian English in print media has been declining in favor of American English, and has led to a decline in national favor for Canadian English. Now, we can't talk about Canada without talking about the French. And while many of us associate Canada with French speakers, a recent study shows that English is in fact the preferred language of Canada. Due to its status as a lingua franca, many Canadians regard English with a significantly higher status than French. And while we cannot not mention the impact French has had on Canadian culture, French has been forced to take a step back as Canadian English becomes the language of higher regard. Although English has borrowed several loanwords from the French, Canadian spelling and pronunciation has a greater lean towards British spelling for the middle-aged and American forms of spelling for millennials. Now let's talk about spelling. Canadians share a large number of spellings in common with the British. Even though Canada gained independence in 1931, the Queen of England remains the Queen of Canada. Cities like Montreal and Ontario are exposed to a high number of British immigrants, thus promoting British spelling. Even with its strong British influence, Canadian spelling is shifting towards American spelling with technological advances and with an increasing number of Canadian youth wanting to sound more American. When it comes to vocabulary and pronunciation, there is always a large variety of words that can be described simply as Canadian. The Canadian Oxford Dictionary has almost 2,000 Canadianisms, spellings, and pronunciation suggestions. As you will see in the short video that will appear in a few slides, there are several Canadianisms that no British or American English speaker can identify with, leaving the words uniquely Canadian. While Canadians have a language that is uniquely their own, their vowels are changing. Sorry is becoming sorry, and pillows are becoming pillows. The reason behind all this? Canadian youth are wanting to sound more American. Linguists say that the shift is most obvious with fricatives, turning shovels into shovels, and so forth. While many people in Canada are concerned that the vowel shift is changing their distinctive Canadian lingo, it is in fact unifying the country's accent and closing the gap between Eastern and Western Canadian dialects. What is truly incredible is that this vowel shift is happening as we speak. We are living in a fascinating time in Canadian English history as we hear and observe the vowel shifts that are sweeping across the nation. Will this vowel shift have any effect on American English? Only time will tell. Now I want to draw your attention to a short video interview I conducted with my American and Canadian family members. So I hope you enjoy. All right, so Mom, why don't you start off by introducing yourself to my class and telling everyone what your name is, and then where you're born, and then where you're currently living.
Hi, my name is Judy, and I was born and raised in California, Southern California, in Torrance, the Beach Cities, and I'm currently living in British Columbia, Canada.
Okay, David?
I was born in St. John, New Brunswick, and the Maritime Provinces of Canada. And, of course, I'm living in BC too.
Okay, Caleb?
I'm Caleb. I was born in Edmonton, Alberta, one of our prairie provinces, and I currently live in the West Coast near Vancouver.
Okay, great. So, Mom, you're clearly from America. You guys are from Canada. Do you think you guys speak a different language?
Yes.
Okay. Mom, what language do you speak?
I speak English.
You speak English? Okay. David, what do you speak?
English.
Caleb?
English.
Okay. What do you think Mom speaks?
American.
American.
Speaking
American English.
Okay.
It's American for sure.
Mom, what do you think they speak?
Canadian, British Canadian, or something weird.
Okay, perfect. So we're actually going to put that to the test today and see some of the differences in the way that an American speaks versus two Canadians. And I have my stepbrother Caleb here to really show everyone how the younger generations of Canadians are actually speaking, pronouncing, and how their grammar is differing from the previous generation. So I'm going to start off by asking you guys to pronounce some of the words that I have written on a piece of paper. So Mom, you answer first, then David, and then Caleb, okay?
Okay. Z.
Said.
Z.
See?
Process.
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 Pasta.
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 Sorry.
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 Toyota Celica.
Toyota Celica.
Toyota Celica.
Decal.
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 Garage.
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 About.
About.
All right, perfect. So I asked you guys to write out how you guys spell certain words, so I'll have you guys do that now. Mom, hold up the way that you spell the word color. Okay, David? Okay, Caleb? Great. And the word neighbor. Great, thank you. And the word center. Great. And lastly, the word paycheck. Okay. Great, thanks guys. So now I'm going to ask you how you pronounce or how you say or words that you use differently. So, Mom, what would you call a floppy hat that covers your head and your ears?
A beanie.
David?
Toque.
Toque?
Yeah, toque.
A toque. All right. A carbonated beverage.
A soda.
Soda.
A pop.
Pop. Food that is served before the main course.
An appetizer.
An app.
Appetizer.
An appetizer. Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys. So now, David, I wanted to ask you, why do Canadians say the word a after asking a question?
Well, it's kind of like a verbal question mark, but it's more like to get a response. So you would say, it's a pretty nice day out today, eh? And the person should say, oh yeah, it's a great day, or whatever, to kind of agree, So it's spelled E-H.
E-H?
How like Americans say, huh?
You say huh a lot. Huh?
Okay. And Caleb, do you use a often?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that you speak a different form of English than your dad?
Yeah, he's a little bit more East Coast, kind of. I don't know. It's more Canadian sounding. I guess the West Coast is like a little bit more Americanized.
Okay, so you think you sound more like an American when you speak?
Yeah.
Okay, and Mom, do you agree? Do you think he sounds more American?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
His mannerisms or whatnot. You know?
And what he says, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, guys, for helping me with my presentation. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Alright.
Hope you guys enjoyed that quick little interview. Now, as you can see, my stepbrother Caleb definitely speaks a different form of Canadian English than his dad. We're going to talk about why right now. The future of Canadian English. The future of Canadian English is in the midst of some serious changes. A study was conducted that examined the language setting of Microsoft Word for 21 Canadian university students. Of the 21, only 8 had their Windows default language on Canadian English, while the remaining had theirs on American English. When asked why the students chose American English as their default language, their answers indicated that they preferred the American spelling. In the Calgary Herald, one of its reporters claimed that more than 90% of Canadians polled recently believe that Canadian spelling is threatened by American spelling. You can see from the video that my stepbrother Caleb did have variance in spelling in contrast with his father. As the internet is becoming a growing phenomenon, its effects on language, including Canadian English, will increase over time. As many young Canadians are trying to sound American and spell like Americans, Canadian English is seeing a generational divide among its citizens. It'll be interesting to see how Canadian English evolves over the next decade and whether American English will soon become the norms in part of Canada. I hope you all have enjoyed this presentation and have learned a little bit more about the English language. Thank you for watching this presentation, and I hope you all have a great day.